Hi, I'm Dr. Tom Lewis, founder of Real Health Clinics. I'm a medical scientist with degrees and credentials from MIT and the Harvard School of Public Health. Real Health Clinics, I founded that company. We are a set of clinics that focus on root cause diagnosis and treatment of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, glaucoma, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, and general dementias. Today, I'd like to speak to you about the connection between infection and Alzheimer's disease and answer the question, is infection the root cause of Alzheimer's disease? So let's explore that topic. So is infection the root cause of Alzheimer's disease? And if we can get our clicker to work. So the summary from my previous 3 talks on this subject: Alzheimer's is a vascular disease of the small vessel, so heart disease is a disease of the small vessel or the large vessel. Alzheimer's is a disease of the capillaries, fundamentally. Both diseases involve inflammation. Infection is connected to the inflammation in many, many cases. Chlamydia pneumoniae and spirochetes are common in both diseases, as are many other pathogens. But let's look at what really is fundamental to good health. You've got to look at your immune system like a muscle. So strong immunity, if you have a good immune system, you're very resilient to disease. You don't get colds. You don't get the flu. But if you have a weak immune system, you might see high inflammation. What high inflammation means is your immune system has to work at a very high level just to solve minor problems. It's working constantly, and you're susceptible to disease. So in the muscle context, think about a simple weight, a 5-pound weight, and the 98-pound weakling. They're curling that weight, and that muscle soon goes into tremor. That's high inflammation. This muscle weakens very quickly or becomes vulnerable very quickly. Whereas Schwarzenegger can curl that weight forever. He's very resilient to that weight. A very strong muscle, a very strong immune system. So really the fundamental way to prevent chronic diseases and Alzheimer's is to have a very strong immune system. So let's look at how we measure this. These are death rates from influenza. So what we realize is that at birth, our immune system is very weak. It's developing, it's maturing, and in fact, if you look 150 years ago, half the children born died before the age of 5. Their immune system was weak. That's why children get cancer or type 1 diabetes. There's this period of particular susceptibility where the immune system is building up and getting stronger. Whereas into our 60s now, we go through a process of dying called immunosenescence, where basically our immune system just slowly starts weakening over time. So what are the consequences of this? So infection is ubiquitous. It's prevalent in all of us. But most of us don't have symptoms. Why? Because we have a robust, strong immune system. It's those with the compromised immune systems that become vulnerable to the infections, and they become opportunistic. So chlamydia pneumoniae, one of the pathogens we believe causes Alzheimer's. It doesn't really cause it because 50% of us have it by age 20. But we stave it off. Our immune system controls it. Toxoplasmosis, we find this in Alzheimer's. It's the #1 underdiagnosed condition or disease in America. 60 million people exposed to toxo. But the CDC, Center for Disease Control, say very few people have symptoms, and they state why? Because they have strong immune systems. They hold it at bay. Epstein-Barr, herpes zoster. When you think about shingles, it's a dormant virus, herpes zoster, that's come back out to play. Why? You don't need a vaccine. You need to improve the health of your immune system to hold that dormant virus that everybody else is holding at bay so you don't get shingles. Tuberculosis. 1/3 of the world has been exposed to TB, but only 0.5% have symptoms because of their immune system. Ebola, there was a big scare in America. A Liberian came, died of Ebola. The nurse exposed to that patient that contracted Ebola did not die. What's the difference? Immunity. So this is something you need to consider. Infectious diseases of age, latent pathogens, they're there. They're in your body. Where is your immune system? We know we have a compromised immune system early on, and when we die, our immune system goes to 0, but how does it track? If you're not comporting yourself properly, your immune system's on the orange line. What does it mean? It simply means, statistically, you're more susceptible to these latent, present, controlled, opportunistic pathogens. And I did that again with my little clicker, so there it goes away. So this is sort of a normal person who lives to 80, 90 years old and gets sick in their 70s or 80s. And here's a person who's really comported themselves. There's no such thing as a blue zone. There's such things as environments where people have very robust lifestyles, low risk factors, and strong immune systems. And these people live by the green curve. Healthy immune system, low incidence of Alzheimer's, low incidence of all the myriad of cardiovascular diseases. So how infection damages. So once you become vulnerable to infection and it begins to proliferate, like the mold in the petri dish, infection releases calcium. Calcium needs to be in our bones. We need a little calcium in our tissue. But the key thing is, calcium in the wrong tissue, in our soft tissue, causes hardening of the arteries. It causes our vessels to become unhealthy. Infection triggers inflammation, nuclear factor kappa beta. So inflammation is basically taking bandwidth away from our immune system. Cholesterol responds to the insult. We want people to have normal cholesterol, whatever's normal for them, and not downregulate it, because cholesterol is part of the infectious control mechanism of our immune system. And then the big problem is hypoxia. When capillaries are blocked by the calcium or inflammation, hypoxia sets in, lack of oxygen, and any tissue that was formerly supplied by that capillary is now dying because it's basically suffocating. So cholesterol is something that's really important for seniors. Let your cholesterol be what it needs to be is a stronger predictor of mortality in patients with infection. And what happens is the lower your cholesterol is, particularly when you're older or sicker, the higher your mortality from infectious diseases. So be aware that regulating your cholesterol may lower heart disease a little bit in certain populations, but only in your mid-50s when you're at severe risk. Later on in life, the higher your cholesterol, the healthier you are, particularly with regard to Alzheimer's disease. So the true root cause of AD, Alzheimer's, and other neurodegenerative diseases, infection is secondary. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back. It strikes the final blow. It's the immune system health, and that's a multifactorial thing. That is ameliorating risk, comporting yourself well, keeping yourself healthy, doing the right things. You have complete control over Alzheimer's disease. It's not a mysterious disease unlike diabetes. As a matter of fact, Alzheimer's is considered type 3 diabetes. So what happens is when the immune system's weak, you're susceptible to these opportunistic infections. That's why it's secondary. So if you look at our book, The End of Alzheimer's, published by the academic press, we discussed all these aspects of the disease. We discuss how Alzheimer's is a disease of the brain, but more importantly, beyond the brain. So conclusions, Alzheimer's is a vascular disease. Vascular diseases are accelerated by infection. They trigger inflammation. If you measure inflammation in your body, it's a measure of what's going on in terms of infection and immune system health. And proper immune system health keeps pathogens in check and will keep this disease in check. You can stop, slow, and reverse and prevent Alzheimer's with the right differential diagnosis and immune system boosting methodologies. My name is Dr. Tom Lewis with Real Health Clinics. I appreciate your time. Thank you.